we've got two functions, f of x, which is this linear function, and g of x, which is this quadratic, and we're going to find the composition. So f of g evaluated at -3. Now when I see this, the first thing I'm thinking is f circle g, what does it mean of x? Well, here's what this means. It means, if you read it, f of g, so translate it, how about f of g of x? And now I'm going to evaluate this at -3, right? -3, so put a -3 in here for x. So we'll get f of g of -3. So what do we do here? Well, we're going to put the -3 into g. So here is g right here. So you can see that we've replaced that x, right? There's a -3 there. We replaced that x with a -3. So replace all the x's with a -3, and it will be f of, okay, we'll get a -3 squared minus 3 times -3 minus 7. This will give us f of 9 plus 9 minus 7. How about f of, okay, 9 and 9 is 18, minus 7 is 11. And now we're going to put the 11 into f. And f is this linear function right here. So replace, you can see I replaced that x with an 11. So replace that x with an 11, and we will have, I'll do it up here, we will have, I'll just write an equal sign here. This is going to equal 2 times 11 plus 1, about 22 plus 1, 23. So I'm going to claim then that f of g of -3 results in 23. We've got a quadratic function, g, and what we're going to do is we're going to process this -2 over here twice with g. Let me give a picture of what's going on. We're going to start here with our inputs. Okay, we're going to input a -2, and then what we're going to do is we're going to process it with g, get a result, and then we're going to process it with g again and see where we end up. So let's write it here. We're going to have g circle g evaluated at -2. Now, when you read this, just translate it, g of g. So I'll translate it like this. G of g of x. Now I want x to be -2, so we're going to have g of -2. So I'm going to put the -2 into g, and you can see we're replacing that x with a -2, so replace all the x's with a -2. So we will get, I'll do it up here on the right, this will be g of, okay, what do we get here? -2 squared minus 2 times -2 minus 9. This will give us g of, now -2 squared is 4, -2 times -2 is plus 4 minus 9. This will be g of, okay, 4 and 4 is 8, minus 9 is -1. So in our picture up here, if I put in a -2, that takes us over here to this -1. All right, so that's a -1. Now, do it again. Put the -1 into g. So here's g right here. I can see I'm replacing that x with -1, so replace all the x's with -1. So I'll get -1 squared minus 2 times -1 minus 9. -1 squared is 1. -2 times -1 is plus 2 minus 9. We'll get 3 minus 9. How about -6? So I'm going to claim that g of g evaluated at -2 is -6. So if I use g to process -2 twice, I end up with -6. So I'll put that right over here. We end up with -6. Now in number 3, we have one function, h, and it says whatever comes in, you're going to square it. So what I want to do is find out what would happen if I put a number in and then process it twice with h. Here's a picture of what I think is happening. Right, we're going to put some number in. In fact, that number that we're put in, we're just going to, so that it'd be general, call it x for right now. We're going to put that number in, and out we're going to get h of x, right? We don't know what that value is, but we're going to call it h of x. And then whatever that is, we're going to put it in again, and we're going to get h of x. So I'm going to process it with h, and then with h again. So what I would like to do is develop a rule that takes us non-stop. This is the rule here, h of x. Get that rule that takes us non-stop from the beginning x all the way to the ending x. And our name for this is h of h, the value at x. So let's go. We are going to get h of x. Now translate it. Just read it and write what you read. h of x. Now this says put x into h. Well, the rule is right here. If I put x into h, I get x squared. So h of x is just x squared. So this is going to give us h of x squared. Now this says to put x squared into h. So I'm going to come back up to h, and I'll put an x squared here. So I have to replace all the x's with x squared. So I have x squared right here. So I'll do it up here. This is going to be x squared squared, right? This right here, that's the x squared, and then I square it, right? Does that make sense? I've got x squared, so I'm going to put x squared right in here for x, and then I square it. Now this x squared squared, that's just x to the 2 times 2. I get x to the 4th. So I'm going to claim now that h circle h of x is this new rule, x to the 4th. So what we've got now is, let me get some room here. I'm going to get rid of this. And this new rule here is, okay, I'll write the individual rules. So up here on the left, this is x squared. This is x squared. And if you want to go from the beginning all the way to the end, this is going to be x to the 4th. We've got a linear function, f, and a quadratic function, g, and what we're going to do is find what happens if we process a negative 2 using these two functions like this. Now, what do we mean by this? Let's translate it. If you read it, it reads as f of g. So I'm going to write what I read. F of g of negative 2. All right, so this part right here, this is just a notation for this. Now I'm going to draw a picture of what's happening here. I'm processing something twice. So I'm going to draw 3 circles. Now I'm going to start here with a negative 2. Now negative 2, we're going to start with a negative 2. I'm going to process it with g. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put negative 2 into g and see what that does. That'll give me some number out. And then whatever that number is, I'll put that into f and then see what my final result is. So let's do this. I'll do it right under here. So we'll have f of g of negative 2. All right, f of, now put negative 2 into g. All right, so here is g up here. If I replace that x with a negative 2, I'll replace all the x's with a negative 2. So we will have, all right, I'll have negative 2 squared minus 2 times negative 2 minus 7. This will give us f of negative 2 squared is 4, and then another plus 4 minus 7. F of, all right, 8 minus 7 is a 1. All right, so now on the picture, I have processed negative 2 with g, and that took me up here to a 1, right? So this is a 1. Now, put that 1 into f. So if I put the 1 into f, I'll just do it right down here. Okay, put the 1 into f. Well, here's f. So I'm going to take a 1, locate f. I'm putting a 1 here, so I'll put a 1 over here where all the x's are. So we'll get 4 times 1 plus 1. Okay, 4 times 1 plus 1. That gives me 5. No, it doesn't. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1. That gives me 5. So what I'm saying now is that f circle g at negative 2 takes us over to a 5. And on my picture up here, I'm in the picture. I start with negative 2, I process it with g, I get a 1, and then I process the 1 using f, and that gives me a 5. In number 5 here, we've got another linear function and a quadratic function, and we're going to evaluate now, instead of f of g like we've been doing in the first few, we're going to do g of f, a g of 6. So here's the plan. I'm going to translate this first of all. So if I have g of f of 6, this means, this right here means g of f of 6. So the picture looks like this. I'm going to start here with a 6. And then I'm going to process it with f, right? So we'll see what we get out. We'll do that in a minute. Then whatever I get out, I'm going to process it again using g and see what our final result is. See where that takes us. So back over here. G of f of 6. So this says put a 6 into f. So that will give us g of, all right, now locate f and put a 6 in for x. So here's f. So replace that x with a 6, replace all the x's with a 6. So we will get 2 times 6 plus 5. This will give us g of 12 plus 5. So I get g of 17. All right, so on my picture, I start here with a 6. I put that into f, and that converted the 6 to a 17. So now we're over here. So now we're going to put 17 into g and see where that takes us. So putting 17 into g, now here's 17. I'm going to locate g. G is up here. I'm replacing that x with 17. So replace all the x's with 17. So this will give us, I'll get right here where I have some room, 17 squared minus 4 times 17 minus 5. All right, so my calculator says that 17 squared is 289 minus 4 times 17, which is 68, minus 5. All right, now 289 minus 68 is going to be, I think that's going to be 221 minus 5, which is going to give us 216. So on my picture, what I'm doing is this. I'm starting here with a 6. I process it with f. That gives me a 17. I process it again using g, and that takes me over to a 216. So I'm going to claim now that if I process 6 using this rule here, I'm going to come out with a 216.